Buenos días a todos y todas. Les damos la bienvenida al evento Lecciones para un desarrollo sostenible y resiliente. Esta sesión se desarrolla en una modalidad híbrida, es decir, que además de quienes nos acompañan presencialmente hay personas que están
autonomy. So it's a hybrid session because we know that we are having here through the tool hoping, which we were talking about this tool for a long time during this morning. I would like to remind you that you need to access to the mute and also to go to subtitles, and you can also use the subtitles or the interpretation feature, and you can see the access to the agencies of every day what it says stages, which is at the left of the screen. So let's start with this event, which is organized by the Network of Women for the South American and Caribbean Women for the Reduction of Risks and Disaster by the civil society. So UN Women, the Network National for the Private Sector for the Reduction of Disaster, arrived from Argentina, the Instituto Americano de la Paz y la Ciudadanía. And this session, it has as a purpose to celebrate and disseminate the work that has been done by women of the region. And it's to decrease the disaster and how to reduce the risk of disasters and their work pro the autonomy and leadership of women in order to reduce the risk for disaster, and also to share all of your experience. So all of you, be welcome. So Daniela Corco-Deltane, please go ahead. She will be in charge to do this talk with all of you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Good afternoon. Welcome to this side event, which is an approach or gender approach based on women's autonomy for a more resilient region. Laura commented us, who are a leader. It's by the network of South American Caribbean, the global network of the civil society for the reduction of disaster, with the collaboration of UN Women through ELATPIC and also the Organization of Argentina. And I would like to introduce you the main speaker, which is the Secretary of General, and who is also Chief of the Office of the United Nations for the Reduction of Disaster. Please, so let's applaud to Mama Mesitori.
Thank you very much. This is very exciting because today is my second panel with all women, right? And you may think that it's something that may be so natural because we're talking about women's leadership and empowerment in the theme of disaster risk reduction. Actually, it's not. It's something that we started very recently. And I'm committed to this. So it's really great to see this in reality. And the other thing is, we have women from so many walks of life. We have the chief scientist from Canada. We have a leader for the new network for women's leadership in Latin America. We have a representative from UN Women in the region. We have, of course, the private sector from Mexico, and we have the youth, and we have the women who work in communities, and all others. And so, it's not only a group of women, but it shows that women are now taking leadership in so many different ways in this world, in this region. But the truth is, we still don't have enough people that are in leadership positions when it comes to disaster risk reduction. And I think it's basically because the whole agenda was constructed from civil protection. Civil protection is, of course, very important. And even now, in many countries, the role that people in civil protection play in order to keep everybody safe, respond better, and even prevent better is very important. But I must admit that when you go around and meet the people in civil protection, not only here, but anywhere, it's really men. So that's why UNDRR started this program in first Asia Pacific to empower women for leadership in disaster risk reduction. And now we have a very important network here in Latin America. And I now know that you have members, this network of more than 1,000 people from 30 countries. This is really an achievement, but we need to do much more. And it is not only for disaster risk reduction, it's for the Sustainable Development Goals as well. SDG 5, which is all about gender equality, we need to make it sure that it is through empowerment of women in the leadership position that we can achieve equality of gender in all spheres of our lives. And for that, of course, we do need a lot of scientific knowledge on how are women actually impacted disproportionately by disasters. And this is a truth, but we need evidence, but we also need stories with women who have unfortunately been impacted more than others, and girls who have been impacted more than others because of their gender, because they were never taught how to swim, because they didn't have ownership of their house. There are many, many examples that tell us that yes, women are disproportionately impacted, and we need to learn from this. And then, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. We heard already from the chief scientist of Canada in the other session that sadly there was a lot of issues of domestic violence everywhere, not in one country, not one region. And this is what happens when disasters happen. Then again, women are very much impacted. So this is all the stories that I think that we will be sharing today. And again, I do feel that it is such a wonderful thing that we are all here together. And I really like to take this opportunity to commend the success of the Latin American and the Caribbean Women's Network for Disaster Risk Reduction, of your newly elected officials. And finally, I would like to mention that we are in the process of the midterm review of the Sendai Framework implementation, in which we would like to really make gender equality a big thing. Sendai Framework does not have an action plan for gender. And we are hoping, working with UN Women and UNFPA, that we can hopefully bring out as one of the recommendations, one of the results of the midterm process, that we need an action plan that is not only part of the Sendai Framework, but is across the totality of the Sendai Framework. And for this, I believe that today's conversation will be very important. We will feed this into our deliberations in New York. And I do really believe that if we can crack this nut, then we have a very good chance that by 2030, we can implement the Sendai Framework for disaster risk reduction. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, señora Mami Misutori.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mami Misutori. So let's go to the presentation for the woman of the reduction of risk. So the first president elected of the network. So please, let's give her a warm welcome. Let's applaud her. Thank you very much, Daniela, and I take advantage of this brief moment for this excellent work that you have been doing for this network. Good afternoon, Ms. Mami Misiture, that the special representative for the General Secretary and Chief of the United Nations for the reduction of risk, Ms. Mona Miner, main assessment for the Government of Canada of the scientific areas, Vanessa for the UN Women for the Caribbean, and so panelists of representative of the most those who are also promoting this event, and also who are here in person, and those who are participating virtually. So before starting the network lack for the women for the reduction of risk. And so thank you for the woman and the non-binary person, and thank you for so I can address you in representing this organization. So I will start defining the network through its two aspects, through its formal aspect with its viable objectives that it has the networks, and I was with add some brief lines on what is the network, taking into account the emotions in a more informal way. So let's start with the formal way. The LAC network, it has been defined as a space to share experiences, exchange information, and widen the knowledge, and also develop measures with focus on gender in the space for the reduction also of disasters. And it has been created by the women of the Latin America and the Caribbean, so we can embrace for this diversity of girls, adolescents, and women. And so this network of Latin America and Caribbean has been launched in October 2021 with an initiative of the civil society for the women, the United Nations, and also for the reduction of risk through its regional office for the Americas and the Caribbean. And without more doubts, we have been able to achieve a lot of progress. And according to all the data, we have more than male, women, and non-binary people who are registered with different society positions, mostly from Latin America and the Caribbean, in more than 30 countries. So with regard to the half of with the Senai framework, we are very sure that with this recommendation, there will be produced amplified effects, not only in the review on the half period, which is corresponding, but also there will be constituted as a referring in other in a future framework. So one aspect, it has been the selection of the first authorities through a democratic process, which is transparent, and also we can also affirm that it was inclusive, which had its basis with the work of several colleagues in our network, which they also worked a lot and also provided their knowledge. It was very good to observe, and also having more than 30 women who also wanted to be part of this, more women that are passionate on what they do, women who assume they are challenges, women who represent the empowerment in the reduction of disaster. Thanks to this process, we have an authority of a group of 12 women that represent the diversity of our people, of our countries, women and young women who are commitment in the construction of a resilient society. The achievements of the network we can see also in this space. In one side, I would like to tell you that this side event is the effort of whose goal was to have this focus of the gender for Pierre 23. It's a conversation which makes able to have a meeting and an open dialogue, which is reciprocal and with new ideas that it was considered from relevant, which was only to and only in person, but also to be transmitted, hoping to create a better impact to more people. And also it's very important that it was a good achievement for the network is the Observatory of Gender, which is has as its aim on how they can be included the focus of gender in the different sections, considering the different dimensions which define the quality of gender. Is for us, it's a baby that it has been in its process, and we hope to see the results and share with you in brief or shortly. And at this point, I would like to talk with you as a woman who, by means of emotions, through aspects that are not so measurable. And I will define the network in a network where we could find a mutual space and also growth, and we could reduce the condition of vulnerability, and through this form we could strengthen the empowerment of women in the reduction of risks of and disasters of risk. With this opening, we want to let indicated that organizations open for all of those women, and also the diversion who would like to make part of it with their different experiences, knowledge, academic, research, and also by means of their individuality. With this, we have as our aim through our also through our their environment, we can get the capabilities to have the resilience and also the sustainability. Thank you for all of the organizations that support us, to the Office of the United Nations for the Reduction of Disaster, particularly the regional office for Latin America and the Caribbean, UN for Women, and the global network of the civil society for the reduction of risk. Also, we would like to thank you to all of you, of more than hundreds of women that believed in this project since the beginning, that have responded to the call, and that have been working on a daily basis to create this space. We would also like to send a message of empowerment to all of our women, a message of support, of respect and integration. All of us, we can create a world that's more fair and that's more resilient. And thank you very much.
Muy bien, muchas gracias, Amali.
Well, thank you very much, Mali. So, let's so the focus of gender for the resiliency, and she will be in charge, so you can take a breath. And also the panelists, it will be the Dr. Mona Memer, to assess, is the assistant of research of the government of Canada, and also for the UN woman, Erika Trujillo from ARAES Mexico, and national director for the epidemiology contingency and disaster, Lorena Terrazas, president of the network PAS, and also recently elected member of the Tamia Trimillo, the national director of the preparation before emergencies of disaster of the Green Cross of Northern, representative of the also the board, and also Linda, who in the use on the. So all of you, be welcome.
Muchas gracias, Daniela.
Thank you very much, Daniela. Definitively, I am very touched in the same way. I think Miss Mami, Mona, on what we will be talking about, the topic on science, technology, innovation for reduction of the risk of disaster with focus in the gender. It's really interesting, this kind of talk, because two aspects are involved which are very critical for the woman. And Lorena was saying it before. I think that she said that Lorena and we weren't talking before about that, and she already mentioned the first aspects are the gaps of gender that are in the science and the technology and innovation in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. And these gaps, so they are measurable data. They are measurable, they are present, and we can see as a scientist, we can see in the data presented by the TIC in the 2018, and they are identified in that study, which would be like a support to talk about the gaps of gender in the science, technology, and innovation. But during this talk, we will only see that perspective, but we will also see how the women in science, technology, and innovation who work in topics related with the reduction of risks of disasters are really these that are really limited and are not clearly seen. How many women in our region, which are scientists, in the academic areas, which are researchers, which are innovative, are really occupying these kind of spaces, are guaranteeing this equality of gender. And I know that this is a topic which is really difficult because there are no data. Thank you, Lorena, for that preview. And so, what are we gonna ask to these panelists if there are no data? So, since that, we will create like a panoramic on according to their points of view, perspective on knowledge, and maybe this would be the base. So maybe in the future we can achieve one of the main goals on what we do science, which is to have methods and methodologies which can be validated, and based on them we can obtain information. So as the first panelist, I asked the Dr. Mona Niemer, that taking into account her experience as the main scientific assistant of her government, to share her perspective on this current situation on the barriers that has identified in science and technology, and also innovation. And if she had the opportunity to see the current situation of women in science, technology, innovation for the reduction of risk of disaster, Miss Mona. Thank you very much.
Yeah, gracias.
Thank you.
And I share Mami's excitement about being on the second all-woman panel today. So this is fantastic. The question of girls and women in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and math, is something that's very close to my heart. Having trained myself in chemistry at a time when we represented, as the woman represented only 5% of the students, the graduate students in one of the leading universities in Canada. So we've come a long way, but there is still a long way to come. I want to start by stressing that it's important for women to be in science, not only for themselves, but actually for society. Because every day we make so many decisions, and women make so many decisions for their families, for their children, for their parents they're caring for, that require actually understanding science, understanding the consequences of doing something or not doing it. So it's good for everyone. We have a problem, I think, a persistent problem in putting everything together in terms of women in science. But we need to have a more disaggregated approach to it. In certain areas of science, we don't need to encourage women to come into science. For example, in life sciences, in biological sciences, they're there. They're very interested in being there. We need to promote them. We need to take them to leadership roles so they can act themselves as role models for others. In other areas, like physics, computer sciences, and many areas of engineering, we actually need to have more women in these fields early on. And then the question is, why don't we have more women? And I think this is a very important question. Very often it's the environment itself. Very often it's how we promote the field. For example, in engineering, the motto is engineers rule the world. While women are more interested in changing the world than ruling it. So perhaps changing the motto might also speak to women a little bit more. So I think that we need to have a more approach that is focused on what we're trying to achieve in what area. And I think that it's a problem in areas like computer sciences, physics, and so on, if we don't have women, because now we have artificial intelligence algorithms that are going to perpetuate actually biases and or are going eventually to lead to disinformation and very serious problems. So my point is, you know, we need to look into the different area, and data, you know, aggregate data is not sufficient. The government of Canada, we look at the scientists, 50% almost are women. But if we start looking deeper, where are they? What leadership position? How they're promoted? Then the picture becomes, you know, different, and also it will inform which actions you need to be taking. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Definitivamente,
Thank you very much. Definitely, the women in science, we take part in different roles, and thank you for talking about these pillars of the reduction of risk, which are the natural science and social sciences. That yes, they really need the empowerment of women. Thank you very much, Doctor. So a couple of days ago, we were listening to through in a magistrate intervention in the 64th in the directorate table of the Regional Conference of the Women of Latin America and the Caribbean. It has a great experience in our region. I asked Maria Noel Baeza to share with us her perspective of the current situation and of the barriers of the woman in science and technology related to the reduction of the risk of disasters. Maria, welcome. Thank you very much for it's a great honor being in my own country, and also will be here with all of you in this panel. Especially, I would like to thank you, the Mabise Misoturi, who was sent by the General Secretary Raul Salazar, who is the secretary of the platform. You were really just helped us to just talk about this gender topic because you are sincerely because you are also a woman. So thank you very much, and congratulations for all of this. And this was last year with the commitment of the legal CSW, which starts next Monday, next Monday, and it has as a center of on which was intergovernmental climate change and other topics. So for us, it's a great honor and be here of this network and be founders of this unique network in the world, which is integrated by different women of different parts and also works of life. And to answer your question, so first of all, these disasters are not of natural origin, and they are not natural because they come from bad practices of development, which is not inclusive way of a development, which is not human, and of a development that in many aspects causes a lot of damage. So the disasters, they depend of different factors, which are economic, social, political, and other factors, and all how this bridge is built. Which, for example, for example, if a flood occurs, maybe the materials were not of the higher quality, and also where was the budget, on where were the resources or the hydric resources that they do not the population doesn't get, and there are many aspects that are involved the political which are also related to corruption in the political systems, and also with regard to the climate, which is related to the nature. And don't forget that the woman is not in the center of the response because they don't allow her, but she's in the first line of the response because it's the woman who attend and big win because of the when there is a disaster in the community organization. That's for us is very important. The agenda of women for the climate change and natural disasters or human disasters, and also it's very important to make a highlight that is one of the regions who unfortunately in Latin America happen a lot of these kind of events. So for us, all of these socioeconomic events, this human failure makes us think that why the woman is not in the leadership. That's why we are also in the UN woman is so to be an equity, like the Mexicans say. I think that we do have a very good example in Mexico in Mular because the equity in everything help us to see the society from other point of view. And also the technology is also very important. The data is very important. And as we always say, and we can also say that 28% of those who graduate in engineering are women, 23% of those who work in artificial intelligence are women, because we can say the 80% are men who are developing the artificial intelligence softwares and technology. And that's something that cannot say because we need to see the bias. And so the while the girls have the same condition as boys, and as unfortunately the past they said like why don't you study something that's more softer what so when you are a mom you can take a good care of your children. And also it's very important that a woman cannot enter in engineering and science if they cannot leave their children to take care of their children. That's why important also to take care. Also, hopefully, the technology can also be included in these topics. And lastly, I would also raise the awareness that the view of gender it needs to be transformative. It not only needs to be the mainstream of fashion. We are not in that state. We're in the state of transforming the technology, transforming the intelligence, transforming the response, transforming the protection, because don't forget the violence that there is in the moment after the natural disaster. That's why we need to defend and protect the woman in another forms like we are doing right. This transformation of gender, it becomes to in technology innovation, but also community innovation. How can we involve the community? We have several examples in UN women mainly defending the indigenous population or the population of origin, which are the more vulnerable because they don't have access to technology or technology platforms. That's why I wanted to leave this thought that the women are not homogeneous. We do have the intersectionality, and that we need that to be considering when providing the answer. So thank you very much.
Gracias, María. Creo que has tocado.
Thank you very much, Maria. I think that you touched the fiber, which is so important for the woman, the kind of support that we need women to do science, technology, innovation. Thank you for those words that are so appropriate for this in this space. So next, I am very proud to present a colleague of the network who has a lot of experience in indigenous territory. You already listened to her previously. Dear Lorena, we would like to know your experiences. Previously in the space you were talking about the girls, adolescents and women in science, technology and innovation in indigenous territories. You said that that are limited, but please tell us on your own experience, what's your current situation on those barriers that limit that equality that we also claim the girls, young women and women. Thank you, Mali, for this space. It's so good to have you here, and also colleagues in the different international, national, local partners. So talking about gaps, please don't forget that we need to escalate. And I think that there are three gaps. So first, like in the individual woman, we always are told like yeah, because you're a woman. So please don't forget about the grasshopper, because we only need to really jump. We are all told like because you are a woman, why are you gonna study engineering? And unfortunately, I believe that why are you going to study engineering if you need to do something that's more soft? And I think that that first barrier needs to be broken with that empowerment. It's not possible that we continue listening that we cannot do that. That's not something that we cannot think about. That when I was a girl, I was told that, and I thought that okay, I will see as a career that's more soft and that I can take because that's what I am being told. Secondly, and the women who are working in the communities and also in the community assemblies. When I was passing, then there's a group of women, but I don't see them cooking. And we are deciding, we are thinking on what to do with the projects, on what we will be planning, and they were laughing at us. And in assembly, we were told like a woman, you talk a lot. Here we are deciding the important things, and that's why we were being discriminated. That's why this organization of women, how can we support them, that these women they had no voice. Sometimes we live in silence because we sometimes the voice we were shut up. That's why a friend of the community was like, oh yes, what happened that the man they also have that training of talking in open spaces. Sometimes the woman we are not we're feeling insecure, and everything what's represented it's a challenge. Another of the barriers if the society itself and the education, how to get access to good education. If, for example, if you are not included in on the university, we are to like, oh, they are from certain space, and that's when the discrimination starts. And that's why, like, jumping these barriers, it's a challenge that we have every day. We need to support each other. Like maybe she is a little bit slower, so I will wait for her, but or I will just bring her support. Not running by ourselves, but helping each other. So thank you, Lorena. Just 1/3 of the scientific field are women. In order to know experience, taking into look of this perspective, we invite Elisa Trujillo to share her experience on this respect. Thank you very much. This one, yes. So thank you very much for sharing this panel with this colleague and friends, which I admire a lot, and having this kind of spaces so to be able to talk and to having the perspective of gender in risk and disaster, but also one of the topic in a transversal way. So I really like, and then also that saying that I not agree with the topics that were already talked. That I would like to make focus when we try to see the gaps we see in a more mature phase, in more immediate context on what is our current situation. I was reading. I like that you also highlighted the different institutions were performing studies like the University of Princeton, like the 4 or 6 years of life, the girl, we don't see each other like equal. as boys, and that's like this personal barrier since 6 years or since 6 years old. We stop believing that we can be CEOs or astronauts or be including in engineering careers, and that's why it's a risk in our, which is a systemic risk in a social level. It's important to just publish and how can we how can we change this cultural topic, this great cultural challenges which are not built in an immediate manner. That's why it's so difficult to just address them. Taking into account the rights perspective is it really calls our attention. We do have the panels of discussion. We send the invitation to many women who are part of this women who are those who operate and usually they send us to the shift. So we need to say that our girls and to recognize that this inclusion, that having that this aspiration to change our society, to be decision makers, stop having these passive ways so that somebody can save us, and not only having these traditional roles, which are not bad, but that due to different topics we are in care topic, but also recognize that we also have a multiplication factor in our society, and as such we should be taking decisions not only positioning this, but also how to reduce it for all of our communities. So thank you very much, and thank you very much, Elisa. So the continuation of the work colleague work, which has a lot of experience of Tania, maybe you talk about these gaps of gender in your section or area. Hi, good afternoon. It's a pleasure being with you. I would like to talk in something that is very interesting, that sometimes is excluded, and is that this kind of gap that our colleagues have been talking, that it's not something that started like 2 years ago. This is our gender gaps, and it can be arrived in like these gender gaps and like sustainability, and these gaps, what they mostly done are the topic of the gender equity. Why? Because the women in the communities, they are seen only as the people who can be responsible for the maintenance of household. And with my own experience, that these women who are precisely the women who more efforts they make and who have more also availability, mostly when we are talking about on strengthening capabilities. In that case, I believe that those who work on a daily basis with this person who also live with these disasters, we are the most adequate from one form or other to be able to search all this good practice, or maybe that replication of something that has been done, and maybe how to institutionalize in our organization, and maybe through strategic alliances. So in that sense, I believe that's a must talk about all of the benefits that could bring if all of the community, all of the actors from one, so to work in a man community way. So saying that we need to remember that we are talking about to create these new opportunities and to bring the groups of more vulnerable people, which sometimes it's very difficult in our different countries. It's very difficult to work with person with disabilities, to work with LGBTQ, and we also have very experiences. She's saying that they have like a good issuers of all of those information which can strengthen these capabilities. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Tanya. Our next panelist will define the intersectionality. She's a young woman, part of our network, who works in sciences and technology related to the reduction of risk of disaster. For us, it's very important to listen to you. So welcome, Aline. Thank you very much. I am very glad to be here with you in all of this panel and fantastic, spectacular woman who. So in this sense, I will say that I am representing the youth of the Latin America and the Caribbean, and this is a role, a very important role, and then I take very seriously. So I would like to talk about the youth and the science, technology, and innovation. It's really difficult. We're in for one, we have in COP, we have a record of youth who are also assisting, but also we have this giant breach, and which the COVID just opened it a little bit more. So that's why we do have two completely different scenarios. So what should we pay attention to? What the youth are doing? What can we do with the youth? Or the work with the young people. So I would like some experiences of the Caribbean for the school safety. For this forum was created by forums and created by young people, for young people, and we were asking the girls, look, what happens if I tell you that there are no natural disasters? Maybe it sounds a little bit. How are you telling me this? If in my house I was told that, because this is a very important part of the talk. We cannot have this kind of we cannot talk about natural disasters to girls or young people. Now we talk about the vulnerability, and we need to recognize how. In this sense, I also would like to have to make a small reflection. The last year we could have the national platform in Mexico, but resiliency for young people, and great part of the panelists were women, but the history is repeated. Women again, that they decided for the engineering, technology, science, with a lot of fear and with a lot, and so it's really, it's so. Why is it so complicated to see or believe that a woman decides to study science? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Aline. Thank you, all of you. I think that so after this, first source, I do have a complaint, and also to dedicate more time here. We have a lot of talented women who could not. So I have a complaint and a recommendation. So next time we may have more time. Really, we had. We didn't have enough time with all of these perspective and genders, and I think that some of you included cases of good practice like Aline, Tania, Alice, and Lorena. They included this within this situation, good cases of good practices. So I would like to thank you, and so give you a big hug and applause, and pass to the next point. Daniela, thank you very much, all of you. Thank you very much. So, what a pity. Well, it's a pity that this cannot be longer, but as you say, so it's like open mouth. At least we have a little taste. So to finish, and what we would like to share with you, two initiative of the LAC network for the women for reduction of risk of disaster. So we have also here the good practices. So through this QR, you can scan it, or you can also access the link that's also showed so we can send the sending of good practices focused in science, technology, and innovation for the resiliency and leadership and autonomy of women and girls for the reduction of risk of disaster in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. And after that, in second place, we also have an invitation to be able to participate in the Observatory of Gender, and of all of who are participating here. You can participate in person or also remotely, which is an initiative of the LAC network of Women for Reduction of Risk of Disaster, and it has as an objective to the inclusion of the focus of gender intersectionality in the different sessions of the Peer 23. So we invite you to, and which is a pity. This has been a very rich and productive session. Please contact us. Before it was also the registering. You can also register in the network if you have not registered. Yes, and thank you again to all of the entities, the network of LAC network, of Women for the Reduction of Risk of Disaster, UN, Women Rights Argentina through PIC, so Miss Mesitori, Ceremona Manuel. So all of these colleagues of the networks participants, thank you very much.